Funding for music is provided by the United States Department of Health, Education, and Welfare, Office of Education, and Allied Chemical Corporation.
Amazing. This is just an amazing instrument. I mean, here we are. We're playing a piece of music that was written 250 years ago for an orchestra, and we're able to play it on a single instrument. How in the world does it happen?
Well, it's done electronically. You take these knobs here, you select the pitch, you select overtones, you select volume. You can imitate any instrument
In other words,
that's been made.
everything that makes up a sound is available to you here on
Right.
this single instrument. So that if a trumpet sounds a certain way and you know how the pitch registers, and you can just recreate that? Is that
Right.
the way it's done? It's fantastic. What about louds and softs and highs and lows? How do you control all that?
That's all done by these knobs.
Can you show me how you do a loud and soft, for example? Is it
Sure.
It's just like my stereo at home.
Sure,
turning it
just
up.
turn the volume up.
It's fantastic. But tell me, this instrument wasn't just developed to be able to recreate the sounds of history, of old musical compositions. Certainly, this instrument can do new things that haven't been done before. New sounds, new tone colors, new intervals, new relationships of pitch.
Sure.
Why don't you play something for us that was really designed to be played on this instrument?
Okay, I think this will put you in a different space.
This synthesizer is one of the newest instruments, but the oldest instrument known is the human voice. Every voice is unique. It has its own special sound, its own tone color.
Job in the city. I was working for a man, night and day. But I never I was a catfish, bottom of the sea. Had some pretty mom, Lord, be snapped to me. She done moved. She done moved. She done moved to Kansas City. Honey, Polly don't want me.
There were 3 brothers in merry Scotland. In merry Scotland there were 3. And they did cast lots which of them should go, should go, should go. And turn robber all on the salt sea.
When voices join together, they blend to create new tone colors.
My wild Irish rose, the sweetest flower that grows. You may search everywhere, but none can compare with my wild Irish rose.
Some folks would rather have houses and land. Some folks choose silver and gold. These things they treasure and forget about their souls. I've decided to make Jesus my joy. Jesus my joy.
Often you can hear a chorus of 100 or even 300 voices blending together their individual high, middle, and low vocal tone colors, their soprano, alto, tenor, and bass qualities into one huge and glorious sound. Ancient people enjoyed playing instruments made from materials which they had available around them. In fact, they discovered that they could produce sounds that were very pleasing and interesting from simple things. And over many years, they experimented with these materials. A simple piece of bamboo like this, for example, became a flute. And this was the ancestor to this very modern wind instrument. And then animal horns, such as this, developed into this modern brass instrument. And this drum, made from an ordinary log, was the ancestor, the great-great-great-grandfather of this modern percussion instrument. Now, new materials were discovered, and their sounds experimented with, and more instruments, each with its own tone color, became available. Now, the idea for the first string instrument might very well have been discovered when a hunter noticed the twangy vibrations of his bowstring after shooting an arrow. Hundreds of variations of string instruments now exist in all parts of the world because people of different cultures have been experimenting for centuries with the same basic materials, wood from trees and strings made from animals. Now, each instrument has its own sound quality, its own tone color. A great string instrument doesn't come off an assembly line. It is handcrafted by an expert, a person who has a very serious and delicate job. You can see the care that is necessary to complete a perfect string instrument. The very special wood used for each part of the instrument, the way each piece is hand-carved, the glue for putting the parts together, the varnish used to finish it, the placing of the sound post on the inside, which causes the whole instrument to vibrate. Parts you can see as well as parts you can't see, all will affect the sound quality of that instrument. The same instrument is capable of so many types of sounds that it is used in many different types of music. The skill of the gypsy violinist has been famous for centuries. As children, they learned this way of playing the violin from their parents and in turn passed the tradition on to their own children. Here's a different way of playing the same instrument. This is American music, bluegrass music. And this country fiddler may sound different from the gypsy violinist because the style of music is different, but the instrument is the same, and the way he learns to play it is the same. The skill is passed on from one generation to another. Here's the string quartet. The highest sounding instruments are the smallest, the violins. The largest and deepest sounding instrument is the cello, and in the middle in size and sound is the viola. With all the possibilities a composer has for creating an image and sound, How does he choose an instrument or group of instruments to express a musical idea? Well, he chooses them by their tone color, that special variety of sounds an instrument can produce which best describes that feeling, that place, that thing, that idea that the composer wishes to describe. Let me give you an example. A Russian composer named Mussorgsky wrote a melody for the piano that was called The Old Castle. And the French composer Ravel borrowed that melody and described his idea of the Old Castle by giving the melody to the saxophone. It sounded like this. But if someone else were describing that old castle, a different tone color might have been chosen. For example, suppose the old castle were on a mountaintop, way up there, and only the peaks came through the clouds, with sunlight dancing off of those peaks. Maybe then the composer would have wanted to use a different sound, the sound of a piccolo. Or if the old castle were on the moor, on the coast of England, in a gray, misty fog, then the composer might have preferred the sound of a foggy French horn. It really depends on what idea the composer has and what tone color best describes that idea. Hey, how about this? What if the castle were sinking in a slimy, deep, muddy swamp? Then the composer might have used this sound.
Blibbit, 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 blibbit.
But composers do not necessarily use instruments to tell a story or describe a picture. A composer creates combinations of sound using a variety of tone color which have meaning, but which cannot be translated as foggy or sunlight or anything else. Composers choose sounds or combine sounds because, well, that's the special sound they want to make. That sound has a certain quality that appeals to them, that has meaning for them. And they make those choices in the same way an artist chooses paint. You see, an artist may use a particular shade of red, for example, to get a certain brightness. And so can an instrument sound bright. Now, other colors can be darker, and the same is true for sounds made by an instrument. Or a sound might be nasal. Or brassy. Or raspy. Now, normally we don't hear just one sound, but many sounds together in combination, tone colors blending, creating different mixtures of sounds and different effects. let's listen to a piece of music for the orchestra which has a tremendous number of different tone colors. It was written by the French composer Maurice Ravel, who loved to compose delicious globs of sound with lots of contrasts and louds and softs, very high instruments and very low instruments, very bright and very dark sounds, and all the tone colors in between. Now, there are many places where the sound is built sort of like one would build a skyscraper, adding layer upon layer of sound. Now, this is called the general dance from Ravel's ballet, Daphnis and Chloe.
Funding for music was provided by the United States Department of Health, Education, and Welfare, Office of Education, and Allied Chemical Corporation.